like this bit of bumper music. I'm Marky Bilson, Tri-City Sports Now. I pride myself in the ETSU coverage. I began the show, obviously, when it comes to football, yeah, Tennessee's more glamorous than ETSU. When it comes to basketball, they're supposed to be on something of a 351 level, you know, and in other words, and come to think of it, you know, yeah, I know Tennessee's 16-2 all time on hardwood against ETSU. I know that. But look at last year's game. It's a 5-point difference. You know? I mean, it's a 5-point difference. And again, I really wonder, I mean, you look at, you know, you can say, hey, Tennessee swept Kentucky this year, and the ETSU lost to Kentucky by double-digit points. I really wonder how Kentucky, now that they don't quite believe they're as good as they were last year, and ETSU is now clicking on all cylinders, I wonder if that game wouldn't be different if it was played now. I guess we'll know in some way or another come NCAA tournament time. Got to look at the bracketology again, I guess. We had been talking about that. Bracketology, I know last week you saw there were some reports of ETSU making the tournament, and one of the more intriguing matchups was a bracketologist who had them playing Tennessee in the first round. How about that? That would be fun. That was really fun at Freedom Hall last year. And you know what else it might do? ETSU, when they played Kentucky in the NCAA tournament back in 2010, ETSU then played Kentucky the very next year. There was motivation to play it again. Okay, Kentucky, they're trying to schedule. What's an interesting game? Hey, what about that team we beat in the NCAAs by 30 points? Why don't we give them another chance? You know, they're close by. Why don't they come to Rupp Arena? You know, I mean, something to be said for that, right? Could a series in which Tennessee returns to the Tri-Cities, say a 3-for-1, a 2-for-1, come about again? We had John Curry on the show last year. I asked him specifically if the Volunteers would look again to play a football game in Bristol once more, a basketball game in Johnson City. 2016 was quite the year locally for the Tennessee Volunteers, because both the Lady Vols and the men's basketball team, and of course the football team, they all played a game in the Tri-Cities. That really helped enforce their brand locally, in my opinion. And as the state school, you know, I do think that certainly there's always going to be the games with Vanderbilt, so you don't have to worry about making the appearance in Nashville for your graduates there. But I do think that, playing Memphis every now and then, playing Chattanooga, and playing ETSU, it's something a state school ought to consider doing. Playing, you know, I guess it's UT Martin close enough to Jackson that, you know. Now, in football, I don't know how practical it is to play in Chattanooga, but it's become practical now to play in the Tri-Cities. And I think there's something to be said for that. Basketball, look, I do understand that, you know, not every year, 2016 in terms of the Vols playing in the Tri-Cities might just be, I mean, the baseball team, they always do, but they played ETSU as well in Johnson City, in the Tri-Cities. Okay, you know, but that might be a once-in-a-lifetime year, but I will just say this. I don't know, once every 5 years, once every 10 years. But, yeah, I do think that the Tennessee men's basketball team should play in the Tri-Cities at some venue more than just once every 53 years. I'll just put it that way. And now that it's become practical in one way or the other for the football team to play here, why not? I've even floated the idea, I know Phil Fulmer said that he did not like the idea of neutral site games And theoretically, Tennessee, Virginia Tech, and Bristol was a neutral site game. Okay. Hey, Scott Carter over at ETSU, you're real good at scheduling these games. Why not have the Battle of Bristol 2 be, say, ETSU, Tennessee? And schedule a home-and-home with them in football. Just the way that Tennessee has done with Oklahoma in football, with Pitt in football, and with BYU. Why not? 2 tune-up games for Tennessee? A lot of revenue and giving back to your home state, as well as allowing your graduates in the Tri-Cities to see you play without having to drive a couple of hours. Hey, that's a nice courtesy done for the locals here as well. Tri-City Sports Now. Let's talk about those ETSU signings. And again, as I said, they're the home team here. I mean, I've always said that. Of course, the early signings, Nate Atkins, Cam Lewis, the quarterback, not the Temple transfer, but Cam Lewis, Kendall Wright. Other guys coming in, though, here that and they are being announced as we speak. And, for instance, the most recent signing, they just announced a signing at 12:41, MJ Woods. Who's he? He's a defensive back out of Seal, Alabama. Here's the list, and I'm going to elaborate on a few guys that I think are worthy of being talked about. Linebacker Donovan Manuel, he's a little skinny. Will Huzzy, wide receiver from Duluth, Georgia. Okay. Julian Lane, we had him on the show earlier in the week out of West Green. That, I think, is a real comer. He said, oh, no, I'm not going down to ETSU, saying I ought to start in the defensive backfield. Don't be surprised, in my opinion, if Julian Lane starts for the Buccaneers as a freshman in the defensive backfield. Secondary of the Bucs stinks. New position coach coming in. You know, Lane was recruited by the defensive coordinator, Billy Taylor. We saw him play, scored 20 touchdowns. He had a half dozen interceptions. He was everywhere. He was the best player we saw in the Three Rivers Conference. Julian Lane, remember that name. I liked what I saw out of him playing. And a local product. Everybody talking about, why doesn't ETSU have more local play? Well, there you go. Javion Hurd, Monroe, Georgia. He's a defensive end. Dylan Henderson, athlete from Pinson, Alabama. Quentin Smith, a defensive back from Winton Woods High School in Cincinnati, Ohio. I once knew a football player, his name was Brandon Myree. He had a cup of coffee with the Denver Broncos. He originally signed with Alabama. He was from Winton Woods High School in Cincinnati, Ohio. I actually enjoyed talking to Brandon Myree back in the day, covered him. I knew one football player from Winton Woods High School in Cincinnati, Ohio. So to me, it's like, okay, wait, they've produced a pro football player. Maybe this Quinn Smith defensive back, Cincinnati, that sounds like a good program. Okay, yeah, sure. Maybe he might start as a freshman in the defensive secondary. Desi Lester Jr., Vienna, Georgia. That's where he's from. Jalen Williams, running back from Swainsboro, Georgia. Boy, the Bucs could use a good running back. Let's look at, in fact, Jalen Williams from Swainsboro, Georgia, just to look at it. In a lot of ways, I like this sort of recruiting talk because, it, frankly, we're going by the eye test here. We're not going by 3 stars, Drew Bowens, they don't know whether he'll play linebacker or defensive end. He's from Palm Coast, Florida. Matanzas High School. Fork Union Military Academy has a good reputation. And Kason Setzakorn, Jay Setzakorn, is an offensive lineman, 6'6", 285. That's a guy who you get him in the weight room and eating a little bit of peanut butter. That sounds like a beast. Fort Union Military Academy, Kason Setzakorn going to ETSU. And now we get into the locals. We mentioned Julian Lane from West Green. How about another guy from Greene County, from a state champ, Nick Rideout, 6'4", 300 pounds. What do you think about that? State champion. Chandler Mullins. Gotta be the younger brother of Adam Mullins from Elizabethton. Long snapper. Are they giving a scholarship to a long snapper? That's interesting. What's with the Mullins family and long snapping? Not that I'm complaining. By the way, you want to know how to be a long snapper? I was actually taught how that. Seems like an odd thing to do and all that. The idea with long snapping is that they actually teach you how to throw the ball, and you can see this if I'm on Facebook. My hands are over my head. Two hands throwing the ball over your head from a standing position. And once you get to the point where in that standing position, you feel as if you can hit the mark every time. Throw the ball through the tire, if you will, from this. Then that's when they switch you into the kneeling position as a center, the snap. All right, that's how to be a long snapper 101. So if that's the position you wish to play, there you go. Dawson Pearson is out of Dobbins Bennett. He's an offensive lineman, needs to go to the weight room a little bit more, 6'2", 260. Cayman Cody, that one, you start looking and you say, oh, offensive lineman, 6'2", 260. Cayman Cody could play on the offense or defensive line. He's out of Jefferson County, here in East Tennessee. Logan Powers is a kicker out of Knox West. And remember, Randy Sanders said he's going to give scholarships to the specialists. You'd think in this day and age you would, but a potential there to replace J.J. German in time? Maybe. Logan Bowers. And a local product if you consider Knoxville to be a local product. And then finally, the aforementioned M.J. Woods, defensive back, Seal, Alabama. There's going to be a big presser at 5 p.m. where they're going to talk about all these guys, and I'm going to be there. And I'll tell you what we learned and have a few interviews tomorrow here on Tri-Cities Sports Now from ETSU as they try to forge their first winning season since reinstating football since the year of our Lord 2001 A.D. Beat Georgia Southern that year. Georgia Southern was ranked number 1 in the country. It's one of the biggest victories in ETSU football history, bar none. Some kind of history made by Unicoi County last night. Blue Devils defeated Sullivan Central. Actually, both the girls and boys swept. So now Unicoi County clinches the Three Rivers Conference Championship, and the girls are poised to do well as well. I think they finish a game back. Let's give you the sponsors of Unicoi County basketball games here on 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities. They are Health and Home Care. Jones and Church Farms, Unicoi County Insurance Agency. The Unicoi County Gas Utility District, Farm Bureau Insurance. Irwin Paint and Body Shop, Clinchfield Federal Credit Union. Irwin Computer Guy. You know, the computer guy down there, I talk about him a lot. He's working on my computer now. I say, boy, you seem to be taking a little bit of time. And he says to me, Marky, we know what you have crap. And I said, yes, I do have a crappy computer. No, I'm admitting I have a crappy computer. And he says, I know that. And I could fix it with brand new parts, but you have a crappy computer. Yeah, I know I have a crappy computer. Well, wouldn't you like it if I used some used parts and save you a few bucks because you have a crappy computer and it's always going to be a crappy computer, whether or not I use new or, or used parts. Well, that sounds pretty decent because I know I have an old crappy computer. Yes, Marky, you have a Windows 8. Windows 8 was the worst for computer. That was the first time they had the iPads out, and so they made Windows 8 for iPads, and the laptop that I have, nothing. I'm on my 3rd hard drive on this computer, folks, okay? I have a crappy computer. And Irwin Computer Guy over there on Gay Street, downtown Irwin, I mean, the man is committed. He said, I'm going to fix your computer, but I'm going to do it with parts that aren't going to cost you a lot of money because, let's face it, you've got a Windows 8, you've got a crappy computer. I can't do anything for your crappy computer, Marky. You have a crappy computer. I mean, it's like, you have a Edsel, but you're always going to have an Edsel. I mean, you can get all new Edsel part, it's still going to be an Edsel. You still, and please, nobody come in and start telling me about how the Edsel was, it should have worked. It's got an ugly grill that somehow BMW redid and made it look attractive somehow, but we won't go into that. But anyway, it was overpriced, I mean, it's an Edsel. I mean, it's always going to be an Edsel, and all that. It doesn't matter whether you put new tires on it or not. It's an Edsel. I have a crappy computer. It doesn't matter if I have keys made of gold. It's going to be a crappy computer. Point here, computer guy of Irwin always has your best needs. He's worth driving in from wherever in the Tri-Cities. Relay for Life of Unicoi County, the dentist, Dr. Jason Cunningham, Irwin Utilities, they sponsor the free throws. Irwin Bonding, Unicoi County Memorial Hospital, urgent care of Irwin Pets, and the Irwin Kentucky Fried Chicken, where we gave away a $25 gift certificate to a lucky listener. And guess what? Those are your sponsors of Unicoi County basketball. So a nice win for the Blue Devils last night. Also, I had to say, J. Ray's Heating and Air in Irwin. We're based in Irwin, folks, if you happen to be listening in Johnson City or Greenville or someplace like that. And we're NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities, 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities. But we haven't forgotten where our studio is and has been in this specific location since 1966 and dating 10 years back before then. So here we go. J. Ray's Heating and Air in Irwin. From installation, maintenance, and repair for your heating and air. Locally owned and insured. And traded. Call Jake Keplinger. His phone number is 948-8016 for your free estimate. That's Jake Keplinger. J. Ray's Heating and Air in Irwin. Your free estimate, 948-8016. Hey, what do you think about that? And if you didn't quite get that phone number, hey, no problem. Just like us on Facebook, our 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities Facebook page, and then go to the video section. I archive all the shows here. You'll be able to get that phone number and call J. Ray's Heating and Air in Irwin and get your free estimate. When we come back, boy, I've been talking a lot about the local stuff here, certainly. I want to continue that theme and talk a little bit about what the new Hall of Famers in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Terrell Owens and Randy Moss, did against the East Tennessee State Buccaneers. I've got their stats. I'm going to tell you what they were when we return on Tri-City Sports Now.